about to come in and talk a little bit about what he does, and I'm not going to try to indicate or imply at all what he's going to talk about, but I wanted you to meet him and share his story. And he's a sculptor. If you go out of town, downtown, on the little, what's that called, the little hill there? They have a name for that.
On 3rd Street.
Just before, on 3rd Street, just before the bridge, all those sculptures that are all along that street are Bob's.
Ancestral Way.
Pardon me?
Yeah,
Ancestral Way.
that's
Yeah,
right.
so, yes, okay, so those are Bob's
Oh, yeah,
sculptures.
that's
And he does some monumental stuff, some really huge stuff, and he does small stuff, and he's sold his stuff all over the country, exhibited all over the country, and Columbus is blessed to have him. He's also a retired educator. He taught art in high schools for 25 plus years.
31.
31 years.
The elementary schools in high school.
Yeah, so he's taught it all. So I'm gonna turn it over to Bob and let him.
Okay, so I'm prepared for about anything, so.
Okay, all right, good.
I brought the, kind of the slideshow.
Okay.
That I used a couple of years ago. I put a couple more things in it, but I
Okay.
could just take a fragment of that, I don't have to do the whole
Okay.
thing necessarily, and then, I know you wanted me to talk mainly about developing ideas, and, my, approach is probably different than a lot of you guys would be using, but in a way, but everybody finds their own way of generating ideas. You're mainly talking right now about problem solving for a specific, like a commission kind of a thing where you've got a site that you're dealing with and you have certain criteria that you need to meet. And my ideas have been very personal and evolutionary, and it's been kind of just doing what I want to do. And so it's a little different, but I think there may be ideas in it that you can use. And also, I guess I thought one thing is, I'm kind of toward the end of my career, and you're at the very beginning of yours. So, you can kind of see that. In the slideshow, you kind of see how one person's kind of done their aesthetic journey. Now I can't see. There's a. I got this on I got most of it on the disc. I've also got a thumb drive. I'll do this.
Oh, there's something on that street. There's a place for it.
Okay. Just click on it. This? Okay. Now you just flip the turn.
Yes, you can click or you can stand.
Oh, okay, thank you. All right, well, I'm gonna run through the initial part as fast as I can go. This is kind of this slide kind of epitomizes my interest in a way. It's nature's always been my touchstone, as it probably is for lots of people. I was raised in northern Indiana, and I loved hiking around the woods and discovering things. And here's a life and death sort of a thing here. these big eruptions that come out of the ground and last for hundreds of years sometimes. Find them just fascinating and structurally interesting, texturally interesting. Stone is really important to me. It talks of, you know, ancient seas and erosion and communities of bacteria and lichens and plants that, and passage of eons of time while we're walking around in our self-absorbed lives. You know, these other lives are going on all around us and recording the time as it goes. Here's this tree that's roots are embracing this stone that, you know, is decomposing. I used to find these places on a creek I used to go to where the water had worn these perfectly, like melon little scoops out of a hard stone, and the water would be in them and reflecting, and get this nice opposites, contrast of opposites of the fluid and reflective water and the dry, resisting stone. Early studio I shared with a friend. It was me before I grew my beard. This was my first little conceptually interesting piece of clay that was almost dry. I pinched a little depression in it and threw some glass in there, and it pooled and kind of reflected back to that little reflective pool. Early commission piece, one of my only commission pieces, back when I was in my mid to late 20s. Lived in a little cabin for few years. I shared with my wife-to-be. We were both feminists, you know, she's a feminist, and we believed in equality, so we split the rent, $15 a month, we each paid $7.50. Oop. Mail order now. I'll skip through these. Raccoon, early piece, coil built, stoneware. Went to grad school at Ball State in the late 70s. Went there as an undergraduate too. But this is the first kind of mature work I was doing. Textural surfaces, coil built. I'm still using the same techniques. 35 years later. Lived in a little house on Lafayette Street, worked in the basement, made these kind of pieces I hauled out to a kiln with a friend of mine's out by the Brown County line. This is an early piece. I mentioned my work has been very evolutionary. It's just kind of wandered along and developed in different directions at different times, but it's held pretty steady in the way, in the kind of things that I'm looking for. This is my studio, the house I live in now, by Wiggleville. I like to combine materials. I haven't been doing it for a long time, but I like that interaction between different materials when they actually kind of harmonize together. A series of vessels. You see there's tie downs on there. It gave me a reason to use fiber and wood and in this piece stone. Talking about the mystery of the interior, and torso-like form. These are all hollow, of course. And they're built with coils. If any of you have ever worked with clay, you can see the coil here. You put one coil on a day. It still works that way. Use a big fat coil and pinch it. And so these little textures are fingerprints. When I'm working on these vessels, this really worked well when I was teaching. I had that period of time where I was living in the country with my wife in the cabin and with my friend doing pottery. And I got into doing my work, the rhythm of doing my work, and trying to show it, trying to sell it. And when I started teaching, and we had a little girl who's now 34, I would come home at the end of the day exhausted. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to teach elementary school. In elementary school, the kids don't sit here quietly like you guys do. They are constantly in motion, and you are constantly engaged. You have to be, or else they go flying off in different directions and fighting each other and tearing stuff up. So I come home exhausted, and the way I was working with the clay helped force me into the studio. I would get 5 or 6 pieces started, and I'd line them up and just start them, and then I'd put a coil down, and the next day I'd cover it up with plastic and go to work, and then come back in the evening and put another coil on, 5 pieces. That would be about an hour and a half's work, 2 hours work, and do that after supper. And if I didn't get out there at least 3 or 4 times a week, then the clay would get too dry to use, and I would lose my work. So I think, I don't feel like doing anything, but I gotta get out there. Well, it's only gonna be an hour and a half, so I go out there and put a coil in and everything, and then as you got about halfway done, I'm thinking, oh, this is a nice looking piece. I want to see how this works. Now, this piece is not doing so good, but maybe maybe I can turn it into something. And the interest, rose as the piece rose. It enabled me to keep working for those years that I was teaching. I was showing in Chicago for a while, the gallery that over there.
Was this a group show?
This is me and a woman from California. She was doing these big paintings of, they were having a drought out there. So this is a picture, the end of the picture of a prickly pear cactuses in a pond, thrown into a pond. And it was about dryness and wetness.
How tall are your pieces in this shot?
That piece on the left is close to 4 feet. Then I did these head and shoulder pieces. They were bilaterally symmetrical. This is the same piece. A side view, what you consider front view. Front view is kind of obviously head and shoulders. Side view is more abstract. And I did a number of them. Same piece. And this piece you may have seen if you've been in North High School auditorium a while back. It's a commissioned piece, something I don't do much. And this piece was in fact commissioned, and it was supposed to sort of function. And it was
How many of you have seen this piece?
Called Gift of the Sage, and it was some guy that plodded north. He was a single man, lived with his mother. He had saved a lot of money because he didn't have much to spend it on. And he loved theater, so he gave the North Auditorium theater department a large gift, which they purchased a big piano and wireless mics and stuff. And then they thought, well, we should commemorate this. So a friend of mine suggested they talk to me. And wish I think to bring that.
Who's the guy in the picture?
Yeah, I know.
It's a really beautiful piece.
I love that piece, yeah.
The way they have staged it as you walk into the
Yeah.
auditorium is extraordinary. It really is
Yeah, I
beautiful.
like that. And most of my work is pretty much totally abstract. This piece, I wanted it to be more easily read by people, so that it wasn't just a big, what the heck is that? So it's simplified figure and articulated hand, somewhat articulated hand. Small piece, combining some materials, kind of unusual. These pieces. I could also do some bronze and sometimes bronze and stone. These bronze and stone pieces, I start with the stone and found object from northern Indiana. Glacial, if you've ever been up to northern Indiana, there's a lot of glacial till up there. Stones that have come down from Canada at some point in history, and they're all different kinds, and granite and this. I'll alter them a little bit and polish them a little bit, and then add wax to the surface and build with it like I would with clay, and then I have the wax cast in bronze, and then attach them together, and you get this kind of play between what was essentially a found object and another material in the bronze. I think they're cool. Nobody's ever bought one of them. I threw this one in here. This kind of starting by talking about generating ideas. This is I got it off the internet. It's called The Beard of Uncertain Returns. It was in my art history book. You guys all had art history?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is Jean Dubuffet, and it caught my imagination when I was an undergraduate because he was using chance. The surrealists and Dadaist, some of them used chance a lot, and the idea is he would take. How many of you are familiar with this figure, this illustration? Well, he would. His wife was a seamstress, and he would go into her studio, as he said. Anyway, I assume he wasn't lying. And he'd go in and he'd sweep dust, little bits of the dust, and little bits of thread and stuff off of her sewing room floor, and he'd get a big plate of glass, and he would put the dust on there and mix it up with a bunch of ink, and then slap a piece of paper on there and make a contact print, stir it up some more, put the paper down, make another contact print, and he'd do this for a whole bunch of them, and then he would look at them and edit them and decide what was useful and what wasn't. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. It's like a process of generating imagery. And so since people were doing abstraction and kind of relying on form and line and design to carry some kind of meaning, this is looking for meaning in physics, really. It's like you become an actor interacting with physics and using your brain to help edit what happens. So that's, this is not necessarily a particularly important piece of art. It's just that it's kind of important to my thinking because it stuck to me when I was in undergraduate school.